Hello, this is the webmaster again from lakeheritage.com. This is going to be the second video, and let's see what we'll be talking about. If we take a look here, video 2, we're going to be seeing what the server administrator sees. In video 1, we took a look at what does the end user see, the voter. But, how is this survey, which is really a ballot made out of a survey, how is it made? Why is the ballot designed as it is? How is offering write-in solved? How to add an image, and how to export data as a zipped Excel file. Now, that's important because, after the survey's done, say you collect 300, 400, 500 responses, you have to have a way to analyze it. So this is the how do you export that. So those are what we'll be talking about. I'm going to minimize this, and we can see, what does an administrator see when the administrator logs into SurveyMonkey. The fact that it says, "Welcome back, Michael," my name isn't Michael, but that's the person in whose name this service is registered. So for the purpose of this video, I'm Michael. Okay. We're going to click, let's take a look at this. This is the video in question. This is the video we're going to make. This is the survey or ballot in question, and it's called Board of Directors 2018-2019 election ballot with a write-in option. I created 23 responses. They're all just hit and miss, lickety-split. I didn't put much thought into it. I just wanted to get answers so that I could show in a video how they would be analyzed. The completion rate is 100%. That is, someone can do half a ballot, not submit it, but everyone who has, that's me, of course, okay, but everyone who started it finished it. 1 minute is the typical time, and that's about it. We're going to take a look at the ballot. This was the same application that was used to analyze the Lake Heritage Property Owners Association amenity survey. So you can see we had 491 responses, a 97% completion rate. 3 people, for one reason or another, maybe a little bit more than 3% of 491, they did something that didn't let everything go through. There are directions here, and sometimes if you don't follow the directions, things can go awry. But we're going to take a look at this, and we'll be opening that up. And this gives us the design. We're going to take a look at survey design right up here. I clicked on that, and the page will populate soon. And here is the design. Now, in the first video, we saw what does the finished product look like. This is why was the finished product, why is it what it is, okay? Well, I had to give it a page name. You can edit it if I wanted to. And I arbitrarily called it Board of Directors 2018-2019 election ballot with the write-in option. I had created another template without a write-in option, infinitely easier, but of course it really wouldn't suit. Now, what I had to do was, I'm going to get out of that, and we're going to go back to the design. It should bring me back to a slightly different view, and it did. And what I did was question 1, and here's question 1. Because this is a ballot, but it has its roots in a survey, You use things like question, where normally maybe you would say item or some other word, but you have to deal in questions. Because at its root, this is a survey being pressed into service as an election ballot. Okay, so I have 7 check boxes. Now, if you know anything about check boxes, when you have a form on a computer and it gives you check boxes, you can check as many check boxes as you want, okay? And they're square. Radio buttons are round, and you can only pick one, but these things are square. When you actually see the survey in a browser, they're going to be squares to the left of the item. So number 1 really isn't even a candidate. I had to create number 1 so that I would allow write-ins, okay? 3 write-ins. Now, this was excruciating. This was difficult. It's very, very, very unlikely that even one person would exercise their right to write in 3 candidates, but it is their right, and I had to accommodate them. And I had to turn myself inside out to do that. Now, only if I made this a requirement, that is answering this question 1, a requirement, was I able to limit the number of responses to 3. Okay, if it were not a required question, someone actually could submit this without any choices whatsoever. Now, if I hadn't included this number 1, here is the slate of published candidates who are, here's the, in editing mode, here is a slate of published candidates who are running for the board of directors. You may select up to 3 candidates from the list below. Check the first box only, if you want to enter 3 write-ins, okay? You want to enter 3 write-ins, this is what you check. Had I not included this, okay, the person, when they answered, they wouldn't pick any of the candidates below that are part of the published slate. They would not have been able to vote. They would have been, this would have completely stopped the process. So I had to include this, and they would pick this, and by picking this, that means they go down to question 2, and they will write in 3 candidates. Hopefully no one uses this. It's very, very rare to get write-ins at all. To get 3 write-ins is unheard of, but I had to give them this option. Now, this is what it would look like on the, on the checkbox. Right after this, I start with the candidates. Now, we had 6 candidates in the 2018-2019 election. I went in alphabetical order. First one was Stanton Brown. Now, when you can enter text very much like an email. You can cut and paste very much like an email. I didn't get into a great deal of detail in terms of formatting at all. Very, very basic formatting. It was really a cut and paste, nothing too fancy. Now, an interesting thing is if you want to add an image, now I already have an image, but I just wanted to show you what would happen. You hit this box, and you have to give a source, and the source would be like http:// and you would have to know the pathway, the internet pathway to the image. You could give the image description. It says Stanton Brown, and you could set the dimensions up, like for example 200 by 200. Now I usually do this before. That is, I use an image editor to get the images pretty much like this. So it really doesn't matter too much if you do this ahead of time. Knowing that a 200 pixel by 200 pixel image is a great size to use. But okay, I already did that, and so let me just backspace so it goes back into shape. So I essentially did a cut and paste with Stanton Brown. This is pretty much what he submitted on his bio sketch. So they're really easy cut and paste. I didn't even bother finishing it up. Next I get to Ronald Brown. Did exactly the same thing. I have Ronald A. Brown Jr. in bold. Here's his image, so that will appear. And then I have all of the data following, all about him. I have Michael Kaywood. He's candidate number 3 of the slate of candidates. That is the candidates who are published. I have Sue Heller. Same thing. Howard Hellier. It was a little bit tricky in this particular election because we had 2 Browns, even though they were spelled differently, and we had a Heller and a Hellier. So we had a lot of name similarity here. And Peter Vogel. So in other words, I just really typed in Peter Vogel. I added an image, and I showed you how to do that. I'll do it again. So I added an image. Now they're going to force me to put in a source. They don't let you upload anything. So it's not that you can upload and draw from this site. No, you have to have another source to put your images in, and you have to provide the pathway. Now, I'll just backspace to get it properly spacing. And that's it. There's also the possibility I could have very, very easily have put in a video. I could easily have put in PDF. I could easily have put in additional images. That would have been no problem whatsoever. So this is a very, very flexible tool, and I didn't overdo it. Okay, now getting back to the this question, and this is always really complicated things. I only want to vote for write-in candidates. Now, there's a possibility that the person wants to vote for 3 write-in candidates. Very remote, but I had to include this, so that had to be there. But most people, if they do write a write-in candidate, will vote for 1 or 2, and even that's very, very rare. So question number 2, and I'm going down here, question number 2, and it's right here, provides the voter with the tools to write in candidates. And they can really write anything they want. They could write in a phone number. They could write in a recipe. It's really not controlled. So it's a free entry. Now, I did in the instructions tell them that if they voted for more than 3 candidates, right here, remember not to vote for more than 3 candidates or your ballot will be invalid. Later on, when I get into the video about how to tally the vote, I'll show you how we would analyze whether the ballot is valid or invalid. Even in the print, I did this for 4 years. I was in the tally room for 4 years. Even when we were doing completely print elections, there would always be 1 or 2 or 3 people that would vote for 4 candidates and essentially disqualify their vote. You can give instructions, and if the people don't read them, they don't follow them, well, how much can you do? So when they see the ballot, they actually would write, who they want. So that is basically why the ballot is constructed the way it is. That's why the directions are the way they are. Again, it's kind of complex. The directions are much harder than I would like them to have been, but it's that 3 write-in ballots that prove to be very difficult. Now, let's take a look at, remember I said that I voted 23 times. Of course, when you're an administrator, you can do things like that. So I voted 23 times, willy-nilly. I just did it as quickly as I could. So when we want to export the results, now there would be probably 20 times as many results, as many votes as I did. But it always works the same way, whether there are 23, 230, 460, it really doesn't matter. So to get get the data out of the database, because that's really what SurveyMonkey is creating, I'm going to go to Analyze Results. So this is a very, very important tab here, Analyze Results. And it's going to populate. Okay, and it populated. Now, what I want to do is, next I want to go to individual responses, because this will give me all of the responses. Okay, and now I want to do a Save As, and I want to export the file. And I want to export all individual responses. Now, this means that everyone who submitted a vote, it will give me a spreadsheet, and it would give me a PDF. A PDF isn't really very useful, because you really can't manipulate a PDF. You can't add, divide, subtract, multiply. You can't do anything with a PDF. It's really a kind of a, for our purposes, it's kind of useless. SPSS is kind of like a database analytical tool. I don't have access to SPSS software, so that's out. XLS essentially is Excel. It's an Excel file. That's fine. And XLS Plus also would be fine. Those would be the more recent or modern editions of Excel that you would find in, for example, the 2016 Office Suite, Office 360, Office 2019, and probably even 2013. But there's no reason to go crazy. I can just do XLS. It'll do. I'm not doing anything complicated enough to justify picking the XLS Plus. I could, though. Now, what I like to do is, since this is going to be downloaded, I'll give it a unique name. And the reason I'll give it a unique name is I would probably download maybe every 2 or 3 days. And if I do this, immediately I see that it's the file that I exported on September 28, 2019. I'm going to hit Export, and it's going to take SurveyMonkey about 45 seconds to get everything ready. So let me hit Export. And I download. And let's take a look at my files and see if it really did download. So I'm the owner of the computer. Not a very great name. Downloads, and I cleaned the download folder out. So here it is. Now, because it's a zip file, the reason they export as a zip file is it probably takes what in real Excel would be, say, 100 kilobytes. It reduces it to 12. Now, it doesn't seem like much. 90 kilobytes, is a fraction of a second of a video. But this is their business. So, in other words, saving 90% of their download volume, right? SurveyMonkey, they really can maximize their servers. They can make better use of their servers. Because it puts a hardship on me, but as far as they're concerned, it's a better use of their servers. So at this point in time, I'm going to say goodbye, and video 2 is over.